Uh, Today I am having this difficult topic, which is that all of us experience, or as a human being, we are vulnerable to all kinds of issues such as loss of loved ones or insecurities, whether it is financial insecurities, psychological insecurities, emotional insecurities, or emotional breakups, deaths, financial losses. So all of us are, can be subject to these situations at one time or the other in our life. Though the probability of these happening is low, but at the same time, the probability always exists, whether it is low or large, we don't know. For example, in my life, I have experienced all kinds of difficulties and pains and losses, whether it is the loss of the loved ones, my father, my mother, or the injury to my son, or financial losses in stock market, or even today morning I was walking with my friend and he was talking about the huge loss he experienced in his restaurant business during COVID in the last 1 year. Similarly, I had accidents. I had theft in my home. So all kinds of situations I have faced in my life, and so I believe that these are very real possibilities. Once I was doing a program, and there was one very senior person at that time, about close to retirement, and I asked him, what is the difference you experienced between your this age and when you were say 40 or 45, and now you are about 60 or 58, whatever his retirement age was. So he says, there's a lot of fear in my life which was not there earlier. Now I'm afraid of so many things. Earlier I never thought these things were possible, but now I think that any of these things are possible. So what I'm saying is that these vulnerabilities and these experiences affect different people in a different way. If you ask me, am I more afraid now than I was when I was young? To some extent, I would say that I am, I won't say afraid, but I would say that yes, there is this insecurity that anything can is possible. Now, how do I cope with these possibilities in my life? Is I would like to share with you. Now, this has led me to first is that I know I can lose my loved ones, which is my biggest fear. I can lose financial things. At you never know. People lost a lot in the partition happened, and they lost everything during the partition. And then even now recently, even COVID, when I heard my friend today morning talking about his loss of his restaurant business, a huge loss he suffered. So anything and everything is possible. So I do not one how do I cope with, so I'm answering this question, how do I cope with the possibility of any of these things happening to me at any time? Now the one thing is that I trust, this has made me trust life. The biggest relief that I experience is that I trust life as good and positive and benign and kind and compassionate. And if these possibilities are there, therefore I am mentally made myself that I am ready, even though when it will happen it will be extremely painful. So that is one thing I tell myself. And secondly, I trust. And when I trust life, that okay, life is very intelligent and very kind, and is very compassionate. So if it is not doing to me, I'm grateful right now. And if it ever happens to me, I will still be optimistic that these will heal and go away, that it will hit me temporarily for some time. For example, when my father died about 14 years ago, it was a very painful, the part of me died with it, and it took me almost 6 months to recover from that pain. But that is healed now totally. I don't feel that pain anymore. So how is it has changed me? Okay, it has given me this hope that It is like any physical wound, when it happens, it bleeds and it pains and it does everything, but then it heals, and then you don't remember that wound. I had my, bones broken. My arm was broken. Three times. Every summer, I used to have one of my arms in plaster, and I was really afraid that. But then they healed, and I don't even remember those incidents as painful incidents. It healed me. So similarly, emotional wounds when they happen. So this hope I have that it will heal. Now I want to share with you how quickly it heals. For some people it can heal very quickly, but for some people it can take very long time. For example, I knew one saint in Chandigarh, who lost everything during the partition of 1947. All his lands, his wife, and women had to commit suicide by jumping in the well because the marauders had surrounded them and they wanted to rape them, and so he experienced all these things. But within a very short time, a few days, he was able to come out of it and started living a normal life. So he had such great faith in trust. Tera pana meetha lage. So this is what we hear in Guru Granth Sahib, and that's what so there's acceptance. So that means your spiritual depth and your philosophical understanding and preparedness, that okay, these things can happen to me, and I'm prepared for them. And I think that trust in life is what heals the fastest. Even now, recently, when I had some financial, say 2 3 years ago, some financial losses in stock market, and it was really hard. It wounded me for some time, but I came out of it within 5 days, because I and what helped me was my meditation. I used to go into quiet meditation for a long time. I still do every day meditation in the morning, and so when I meditate, I feel there is some part of me which heals. So I would say that these things are unavoidable, but these things heal up, and we should know how to heal, how to heal these wounds, psychological wounds or emotional wounds that happen, so that we come out. So one of the ways I have discovered is that meditate. Now, what is meditation is a different subject, and people have different meaning for these. But I spend a lot of time every day in the morning, just sitting quietly, watching my mind, much watching my feelings, and then slowly and steadily I become quiet and distant and get into this watchfulness. That to me is one of the strongest things which help me to heal these wounds, and also make me strong to take on the setbacks on everyday life. So this is now you see there are sometimes there are post traumatic stress disorders. Some people don't heal for a very long time. For example, people who had gone to war in Vietnam, those in America, and when they came back, the death was happening every day. They saw so many deaths, and so many, the bomb would fall next to them and stuff like that. So they experience post traumatic stress disorder, PSTD. Now what is that? Is that once we experience these trauma of war or some say explosion or some terrorist attack, and then even a small voice in the truck going outside would make them so afraid that they would just leave everything and go under the bed to protect themselves. So that is a post traumatic stress disorder. Even a small hint of something which can harm me makes me so anxious, and so terribly anxious, that I just want to hide. So I don't want that these things should happen to any one of us. And that we should get into post traumatic stress disorder for a very, very long time, 20 years, 30 years, even after or even I have seen that some people who had break up in relationships, so they become so terribly afraid of relationships that they don't want to enter into any kind of relationships. So what I'm saying is that these wounds can have very deep impact on our psyche, and in order to avoid that, you see, that's exactly the topic of my today, is that What are those things which help us to face these calamities in our life, which is a real possibility, though the probability may be low. How to prepare ourselves, and what changes these can make to our personality when we experience this reality of life. So, in summary, for what I have shared, I'll just summarize what a little bit I have shared so far in 10 minutes. What I am saying is that uh, there is a definite possibility to prepare ourselves for these calamities which can strike us at any time, and therefore it's like take some kind of emotional insurance that we do not suffer that big emotional wound. So I'm talking of basically emotional insurance. So what is that emotional insurance is, I am suggesting that you have one, you have a lot of trust in life that you have to develop, because life has so far taken good care of you and will take good care of you, and it is compassionate, and it is very intelligent, so it will take care of. So I develop that trust in life, that nature or god or whatever word you want to use for it. And once I have that trust, then I my fear is much less, and my preparedness for all these calamities is much more. And secondly, I am saying is that you have this emotional mechanism of daily healing, which is meditation. I don't know whether many people have talked about this meditation as a emotional healing tool, but I have experienced it in my personal life that it is a very good healing. It hastens the healing of pain and suffering and wound, emotional wound that we suffer. And now I want to talk about, this is the summary of so far. Now I want to talk about is that there are some other ways. For example, the deeper our emotional investment into anything, whether it is relationship, whether it is material things, whether it is money, whether it is our status, social status, wherever we have lot of emotional investment, and lot of our identity is dependent on that. For example, I have come across cases, especially for people who are in senior positions like lieutenant general or some very high senior bureaucrat, and when they retire at 60 or whatever ages, suddenly they lose that identity, and that loss of that status of identity can be very damaging for their sense of well-being. It is like an emotional wound that they experience. And many people just get into a very dysfunctional mode, and lose health, and then deteriorate very fast. But some people recover very fast. So what I this example I'm giving you, that in whichever identity of yours, you have many investments in many identities, in relationships, in money, in wealth, in social status, in your role identity. And when you have a lot of emotional investment, you become vulnerable to that loss of that identity. So one is that be very conscious of it, that okay, where is my emotional investment, in which kind of identity I have emotional investment. And so the more aware you are of these emotional investments in whichever identities of yours, not others, your own identities, maybe it your role, maybe it is money or whatever. So the more vulnerable I am to emotional wound and emotional loss. And therefore uh, what they call is detachment is also a kind of insurance. So you know that these are passing, these are there today, they may not be there tomorrow. So it's the reality. Like in COVID, I have experienced some young people dying. So no one ever thought that I will die, and they die, and the family suddenly is in trouble. And the person who has died has no problem because he's gone, but the family which was so emotionally dependent on that person is wounded for a long time. So, detachment is the philosophical perspective or spirituality, or I would say that a kind of humility there, that whatever I'm enjoying is, I'm grateful for whatever I'm enjoying, but I can lose it any moment. And therefore that's a kind of humility is it gives you a kind of emotional ensure when I am aware of all these vulnerabilities within me, how can I be arrogant, right? So that's a gift that nature is telling you, and therefore it makes me humble. And anything can happen to me, and all these things are very temporary, and that is the beauty of life. See how delicate life has made our human existence is so very delicate. It's like a delicate flower. It is here today, it may not be there tomorrow. And the beauty also lies in its delicates, in its being delicate. So this is the paradox. At one level our life is so very delicate in all respects, and at other level it survives all the vicissitudes of life. And that therein lies the beauty of this life, and therefore the intelligence behind it, which has made this life so delicate and yet so strong, that it survives for 70, 80, 90, 100 years, and enjoys this. So I start wondering at it, and I remain humble and be grateful for whatever pleasures I'm enjoying. So that means if I don't deny these vulnerabilities, one way to deal with these vulnerabilities, I deny them. I said, जब होगा देखा जाएगा, it doesn't matter, अभी तो नहीं है. Or in some other way, I just don't even think about them because they make me uncomfortable. So in that sense I may get into arrogance, but when I'm aware of all these vulnerabilities, I'm not denying them, I'm facing them, I'm owning them, and they are part of me. And since they are part of me, this makes me humble, this makes me appreciate life more, this makes me more grateful, this makes me live in the kind of abundant mentality. Okay, I am enjoying my family, how grateful I am that I'm having a nice food, I'm having nice home, I'm having nice friends to talk to. So your gratefulness and sense of abundance increases because you are conscious of these vulnerabilities. I was watching one movie, a very beautiful movie, Enemy at the Gate, in which there is a siege of Stalingrad by the German forces, and there's every day the fight is going on between German and Russian forces. And they know that we may die any moment. So in the evening, all these German and Russian forces come back to their barracks, and they have party and dance and drinks and everything, because they are able to enjoy life. Let's enjoy life more today. Maybe we are not living tomorrow. So your existence in the current time increases, the intensity of your living in the current moment increases. So there are a lot of benefits. So in the last 10 minutes, what I've spoken is that when we face these vulnerability and not run away with, so why when we face these vulnerability and not run away from them, then our current existence become much more intense. We become grateful. We become we enjoy the present moment much more. And at the same time, we live in this abundance and gratefulness. So we enjoy the delicateness of the life, and not live a fearful life. Now and also I have talked about that the dysfunctional way of coping with it is that we uh, deny its existence, we don't face it, we run away from it, we spend our time in escaping from them, and not face it because they make us uncomfortable. And it is not possible for us to be deal with this fear. So I am saying that instead of that, just confront these vulnerabilities, experience them, and make prepare insurance against them, because they may come anytime. And and some of the techniques also I have shared, that this is how I have been dealing with it. Yeah. Okay. So the next then in this another coping, or bringing depth. So how does it bring depth to my life? Let me state that. Okay, in the ball acceptance. Right. That's right. So you become so wise into that, that you say, okay, I trust in life, and therefore I accept it, and I'll do whatever is in my power to deal with it. And so that leads, you are able to come in the here and now. So what I am now touching upon is that This makes me live life in the here and now. So, what prevents me from living life in the here and now, when I'm conscious of these vulnerabilities and I say, okay, this existence at this current moment is more than enough for me. Uh, let me say how it has helped me, in which way I have benefit in the second another time. That all the time we are feeling some inadequacies, whether it is because of my even since as a small child I have been experiencing all kinds of smallnesses and inadequacies, be it I was not able to play well, be it I was not able to get good marks, or be it I was not good in speaking some language, or be it I was not good in my academics, or maybe I was not good in I didn't know how to drive some scooter or car or cycle or whatever. So all the time there has been some inadequacy, or maybe there was not enough money or something, or maybe I was not smartly dressed enough, or maybe I was not good enough. So all kind of inadequacies are there in me. And so whenever there is this inadequacy, I get into this becoming journey. I want to overcome that inadequacy, and I spend my time in becoming more adequate in that. So now with this now at this stage, when I'm fully conscious of all these my vulnerabilities and so many other inadequacies that I have, I says I don't want to get into any more becoming journeys. I am okay to be inadequate in many respects. In one or two respects, I would like to focus on my energy, and I don't want to get distracted into. So I live in the here and now, and I stop myself from getting caught in the becoming journeys, which keep me trapped in something, or the other, all the time running after something or the other. So in the third way it has helped me is that I'm able to live in the here and now and not get caught in the becoming journey. So this is one of the biggest, all these things come together in the becoming, in this facing of the vulnerabilities.